Do you have the gift of gab and like talking about interesting topics? Are you often called opinionated by your friends and family? Then come to Anchor where you can be all of the above and get paid for it. Along with being one of the easiest systems to create contact with, Anchor supplies everything you need and can be used from your smartphone or computer. They even distribute your content for you so that you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Just download the Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Okay, good evening, Internet family. This is Anjanette Potter, also known as Adam's Rib, and this is my out and about movie review of the movie Don't Let Go. So the movie was written by Jacob Aaron Estes, who also written and directed, also had a hand in Mean Creek, which is from 2004. The Details from 2011, and he co-wrote Rings, the sequel, also known as Rings: The Rebirth, in 2017. The movie was also co-written by Drew Daywalt. And the genre for this movie is considered to be supernatural thriller. I didn't get that. What I got was time travel, also known as time leaping because of the plot. It was considered horror. When I saw the trailers for it, I almost expected to see something similar to Pet Sematary. But it wasn't. It was. It put me in mind of another movie. Let me see here, because I wrote down. I expected Pet Sematary, but I got. There was a movie that starred. Let me see. James I can't remember. Oh, it made me think of, it's right here in front of my face. It made me think of the movie Frequency with Dennis Quaid and James Claviezel, I think is how you pronounce his name. So James Claviezel, Jim Claviezel, if you remember, played Jesus in the film Passion of the Christ. So it's the same guy. And in this movie, the conduit for the supernatural action was him being able to talk to his father through a radio. In this film, the plot for the film, I'm not try not to put too many spoilers in for you, but in this film, a man and his favorite, has a favorite niece. The favorite niece her family winds up being murdered, and and she starts to contact him through a smartphone. So the conduit for the action in this film is a smartphone, but it's really kind of. And so they I looked up the information for Frequency, and they described it as time leaping, which every time I think of time leaping, I think of the show Quantum Leap. This is almost parallel universe. Now, I'll be honest with you, I am very geeked up as a person who grew up watching Star Trek and seeing the first Star Wars. I think I saw the first 2 Star Wars. I'm a bit of a sci-fi fan, so I'm kind of, with Get Out and Us and different other. I'm really happy to see so many black film directors taking, which I'm not sure that if this guy was black or not. I didn't get a chance to look up his picture, but taking films with a largely black cast and taking it to another level. We're not just seeing, Do the Right Thing, Boys in the Hood. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was a fan of all those movies. I'm a Spike Lee fan for life, and John Singleton at least, for life, even though he's no longer with us. Once I and Jordan, who did Get Out and Us, he now has a fan for life in me. So when I like a director, like a person's work, and just like, you heard the last review when I talked about how, for a Quentin Tarantino film, so I'm a fan of his work as well. I also am starting to get a few female directors so once I have a person, I'm with directors anymore. I'm like with directors like I am with writers of books. If I find a person's work that I like, I pretty much will read everything that person writes. So I'm a bit of I wouldn't say sycophant, because I'm not going to like it just because you wrote it. If it's not as good as your other work, I'm going to be honest. But I am I'm a fan. So I'm also liking that the ones in my age group and maybe a tiny bit younger are starting to take the black cast thing, and now we're venturing into the supernatural, which has been done before. I'm not going to, act like it's a new thing, but like now they're getting to the place where they're starting to make certain issues almost supernatural. They're bringing that special kind of sci-fi and horror to the real issues of race and real issues of police corruption and different things that we go through in our communities. And I have to say, it's really good. I mean, it's resulting in some really good films being made. So the cast in this film was David Oyelowo. He's Nigerian English. And you probably remember him as playing MLK, Martin Luther King, in the film Selma. And he also had the lead role of Saritis Kama in United Kingdom. And he also was the chess coach in Queen of Katwe. And I've never really heard of those two films. It also has as its and the young lady who played his niece, he plays the uncle. The young lady that played his niece was Storm Reed. Many of you remember her from A Wrinkle in Time. She was, the lead role. She also played Gia in HBO's series Euphoria. And she was Emily in 12 Years a Slave. And another actor that has been around for a very long time is Michael T. Williamson. Many of you, I remember Michael T. All the way back to like the late 70s. He's been around a very long time, playing on a lot of series television, bit parts here and there. I'm happy to see as he's aged in the business, he's aged well. And he's getting more bigger, he's gotten, like any other actor, more bigger roles and everything. So he's been with us a long time. One of the major roles he had in a major motion picture was the role of Benjamin Bubba Blue in Forrest Gump. So he was the guy who befriended Forrest and talked and was the inspiration for Bubba Gump Shrimp if you are a Forrest Gump fan. So if you saw Forrest Gump, and so he was that guy. The one he wound up dying, and Forrest took over his idea and made a success out of this venture, and paid off, not paid off, but gave a nice big royalty check, broke off it, Bubba's mama real nice. He also played in Con Air. They didn't say the role he played. and he played Gabriel Maxon in Fences the film. So the release date for the original release date for this movie was January 27th, 2019 at Sundance under the title Relive. So it got released in the U.S. to us on the 30th. The running time was hour and I'd say 100. It says 107 minutes. Under a budget of $5 million. It's already made for the opening weekend as of September 1st. They've already made $3 million of that back. So by now it may have went over budget and has now turned a profit. I like to mention that kind of stuff. I know that may be like, what does this have to do with how good the movie is? But I tend to like to mention that, especially because you see a little bit that there's some significance there. Because with us, like I said before, with us as Black folks, very seldom are we able to make a film and if it don't do well, good luck. So we almost have to do, if we're going to do it, we have to do it right. And it has to really generate some buzz and kill it. And, I'll say same thing I used to say back in the 90s. We really have to support Black art. Don't get me wrong. I don't expect you to support anything that you don't like or that's subpar or that you're not into. But at the same time, when we support us, we keep us working. And that's really with anything. So some of the themes in Don't Let Go, as I mentioned before, the major theme in this movie was time travel or time leaping. If you're a time travel fan, then you know that there are rules to time travel. And so the rules that I'm looking at are the rules that were mentioned in Back to the Future, if you're a Back to the Future fan. But the major theme in this with time travel is the ability to change, prevent, or undo unpleasant events. According to the time travel laws, according to the laws of time travel, depending on which sci-fi movie you listen to, because and whether or not you should, if you could. So the last movie I reviewed for you guys was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that had to do with alternative fiction, I think it was, which, like we explained before, that's when I keep saying that's when they take something that actually happened to give it a different ending or a different conclusion than the actual facts of what happened. So this is different than that, in that he is able to talk to his niece before, she's calling from 2 weeks before her and her family passed away. And so it's really not a time travel in that he's not traveling. The main character isn't going back in time. But what he's doing is talking to her prior to events that separated them through her being murdered and losing her life. And so she, one of the things that I thought was pretty cool was she was a niece that didn't, he took her under his wing because, and many of us have families where that's, the case. We pretty much have a young person that you are having to look out for or be sort of a fill-in father or mother for them, because their own parents just, are they either on drugs really bad or just, are, messing with illegal stuff or in and out of prison or just have some other issues going on to where they can't be the best parent they can for the kid, and you recognize it's not the kid's fault, so you kind of, he's the type of uncle that you look and go, well, thank God this child has him. Sort of one of those situations. So in this film, there really isn't technically to me a time leap either, because he doesn't go anywhere. What happens is, and I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but he's being contacted by her. And like I said, to me, it almost looks more like parallel universe. Although that wouldn't be too accurate either, because if you're a sci-fi fan, you know that parallel universe is usually where they're in a different dimension, and usually everything is, I want to say everything is usually like the complete opposite. That would take you being a Superman fan, if you've seen any Supermans with that, where everything is almost the complete opposite of what's going on in the universe that you're in. But that's the best way that I can think of to describe this. It's not really a time leap, because he doesn't go anywhere. What happens is that she's contacting him from, what we technically refer to as the other side, or beyond the grave. And so, as I said before, when I first saw it, I thought I was expecting Pet Sematary, but that's like not what it is, because in Pet Sematary, they were coming back, but they weren't coming back in a good way. So, now as for the movie itself, pretty fast pace. I like. The creep factor kicks in pretty early. And so for me, the creep factor in the movie is that part where something happens to give you a clue about things at that moment, where you look and you go, shit. Oh Lord, this just got real. This just got okay, we starting to already kind of turn that corner toward left view. Things is about to go a little left to center. And it kicks in pretty early. The main, like I said before, the main character's niece calls him from the other side, or the afterlife, seemingly. So she's already, so when he gets the first phone call from and it's a phone call, if you know anything about cell phones or cell phones at all, when you have somebody's phone programmed, it, rings and it does a caller ID where it's them. So he's getting phone calls from her pretty early on. Like I said before, this is the first evidence of the time leap or time travel. As I keep repeating, it's not really horror to me. Horror to me, it like I said, there's a creep factor, but it's not a creep factor that goes into out and out horror. It's more sci-fi than horror. Horror, when I think of horror, I think about slasher movies, or demon possession, different things that are meant to scare you. This doesn't scare you. It's just very gripping and very, very suspenseful. Like you're on the edge of your seat the whole entire time, because you're just wanting to know, okay, what is coming next? My rating for this, I would have to say, is first run. I told you about my different rating systems. I would say this is worth your first run dollars. It really is. I think if you go see it, you'll like it. I think you'll, like I said before, be on the edge of your seat the entire time. You will, and I couldn't take my eyes off the screen the whole entire time. And like I said, I just couldn't take my eyes off the screen the entire time, because I was just waiting to see what was going to happen next. And so it really grips you, it gets its claws into you, and it doesn't let go. So I highly recommend going to see it. It's worth your opening weekend money. If you have anything you need to do next weekend and you just want to see something suspenseful that really grips you, or you just want to see a really good movie, I highly recommend this movie. I think if you go see it, you'll enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. Now, so that's my take on Don't Let Go. Very good movie. The entire 107 minutes it didn't seem like it was a whole 107 minutes. I mean, it was just, very gripping the whole entire time. I'm like not going to give away the ending or whatever, but some of it you can pretty much guess, because there's also a little bit of mystery to it, because there's also some, who done it in there as well, when you're trying to figure out who it is that took his brother, sister-in-law, and niece out. So there's a lot, like I said, there's parallel universe, time travel, different dimensions, and like I said, according to the laws of time travel, whether or not, because the laws of time travel usually are, some people say you can't change the past. I think, according to Back to the Future, you have to watch what you do in the past, because the least little thing can change your present. You'll come back to a different present than what you left if you decide to time travel. And like I said, this wasn't exactly time travel because he didn't go anywhere. She contacted him from beyond, and and the conduit between them for all of this to take place was a smartphone. So I also am going to do something that I didn't do on the last review, and that's talk about some upcoming movies that I saw while I was looking at the previews and everything. So these are some upcoming movies that I look forward to seeing and reviewing for you. So one is called Black and White. Its release date is October 25th of this year. It is, from what I could see, it looks like it's going to be pretty good. It's about a woman who becomes a cop and uncovers some police corruption within the unit that she works in, and how now that she's a cop, she's almost not considered to be part of the black community. She's black, and having that whole tightrope that they have to walk. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And Angelina Jolie has made Maleficent 2, also known as Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, on the 18th of October. So that'll be the release date for there. I'm on the fence on whether or not I'm going to see that one, although it looks like it's going to be pretty good. She's a pretty good actress. One of the things when you have to hear tabloid stuff about people's personal life is like you hear some of that, and unfortunately, if you're not careful, it can overshadow and make you forget that these are people that are actually really good at what they do. Tenet, which is supposed to come out, actually, this is supposed to come out next year, July 17th, 2020, with John David Washington. Many of you know John David Washington is the son of Denzel Washington. He was also in BlacKkKlansman, which was also, a very, very good movie. So he's starting to strike out and make a name for himself as a very good actor. Harriet, the one that I really Jones in the Sea. There's two on this list that I really want to see. And that's this next film that I'm going to tell you about. It's called Harriet, and the release date is the 1st of November, 2019. It is the story of Harriet Tubman, and from what I could see on the previews, it looks like it's going to be pretty gripping. So I am Jones in to see this one. Queen and Slim. Queen and Slim, November 27th. 2019. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing that one too. It's kind of a on the run the movie, but it's not a, people want to put Bonnie and Clyde. This is not really Bonnie and Clyde. This is more fugitive from justice type things. The actor who played the lead in Get Out is in it, and I can't remember who the young lady is playing his love interest, but it looks pretty good. It has a police brutality or police abuse scenario in it that precedes their having to run. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. And another one that I'm jonesing to see, and I know this is going to sound like, and I think this is going to be the feel-good movie of 2019, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Tom Hanks. Now, many of you, and its release date is November 22nd, 2019. Now, many of you remember the saying, the song, It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, from the Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood show with Fred Rogers, who was I think he was a Presbyterian minister, but he hosted the show. And Tom Hanks, this is a Tom Hanks joint. He's going to be playing Mr. Rogers. And I say it's a feel good because there's nothing in here that says that you're going to find out any really dark secrets about Mr. Rogers. He was, known by most people. I looked at some footage on YouTube, documentary type footage, and also the trailer, but more footage of actual footage of people who they interviewed, and he just goes down as a genuinely good human being. So I'm looking forward to, as a person who used to watch the Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood show when I was a kid, I'm looking forward to seeing this. So this review is not, this particular podcast is not going to be that long compared to my one about Monique and respectability politicking. But like I said before, I recommend that you see, I highly recommend that you see this movie. It is a really good movie. I know I keep saying I'm trying to get over that little habit, but I highly recommend that you see this movie. I think it's a movie that you'll enjoy if you go and see it. If you like the content, this Friday I will be posting again. Also, I just started another blog. So now I have 6 blogs under the Adams Rib Media Ministry umbrella, and it's called Perfect Pitch. So Perfect Pitch is going to be a music blog. It is going to be for all who recognize the prophetic, technical, and ministry aspects of music. So this is, something that's really close that I really like. So I will be covering all things music, live music, and talking about different, pretty much like my other blogs, anything that comes to mind that I want to talk about that has a musical emphasis. Also, probably vocal lessons. So, different things. If I see different things, as far as singers and technical aspects that I want to touch on, I will. But also, like I said, the spiritual significance of music. I don't think that people recognize that music does have a prophetic and spiritual purpose to it. And so I'll be talking about that. In fact, I'll be talking about it on the next podcast that I record after this one will touch on that subject, will be my introductory podcast for that particular blog. So I am grateful. I'm seeing, when I look at my YouTube and when I look at my Anchor and check my numbers, I'm seeing that much of my stuff is getting a lot of listening. I really appreciate you for listening. My podcast has grown to, let me see here, I have one more, I'm now featured on Overcast as well as Podbean. So right now, my Internet Speak podcast is now on on Anchor, which is where I posted at. But it's also on Apple, Breaker, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Podbean, Radio Public, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, and Podcoin. And as I explained, Podcoin is the one. Himalaya and Podcoin, you get points and different things that you can redeem for gift certificates or other little things that you can purchase with the points as you listen to each of the podcasts. Like I said before, I have no problem with someone listening to my stuff and being able to be rewarded for listening to my stuff and being able to, use that reward to purchase stuff for yourself. I pray that, if you're listening to it, you're also getting something out of it, or I'm saying things that will make you think. Now, this Friday night on Eclectic Weekends, which is my radio show on Station Head, I will be doing part 2 of reality TV songs from reality television, from artists that are on reality television. Like I said this past Friday night, I think that, we see so much of some people on reality television that we don't realize that many, I remember talking to my daughter one time. We were looking at Surreal Life with Flavor Flav, and then we looked at the show that came after that, which was him and Bridget Nielsen in Strange Love, and then eventually Flavor of Love. And so, like I told her, I said, believe it or not, as much as we all make fun of him with these different shows, he is actually a very gifted rapper. And she was like, really? I'm like, he is very good. This kind of, to me, overshadows who he was in the whole 90s music scene as a part of Public Enemy, because he was their hype man. And so that's one of the reasons why I decided to do a part 2, because part 1 didn't cover all the artists that I really wanted to cover. So I'm going to be doing a part 2. And I think the following weekend after that, I was watching one of my favorite vloggers, Kimberlyn Foster, for Harriet, is her channel. And she was talking about, the whole issue of not making music, and black people who get criticized for making music that is, quote, for white people. And I think a lot of times we criticize people and we don't realize you're talking about a very gifted person. And so the show after that, I think I'm going to make the focus black musicians or artists that make music that would not necessarily be considered traditional art, because we kind of dominate R&B. People associate R&B with black people. Okay, that's a genre that seems to be made exclusively for us. So when we hear, we forget that we were the early architects for what is constituted as rock and roll. Yeah. We were the architects for rock and roll. We were. Black people were. Chuck Berry, Little Richard, James Brown, different people, back in the day. Rock and roll is sort of a kind of morphed out of blues and different other sound, blues and gospel and different other sounds that came out of us. So we were kind of the architects for that whole thing, and it morphed into, it just tended to seem to whiten a little bit as you get into more recent years, but we were more the architects of that. That's why you see so many British bands like the Beatles, British artists like the Beatles and the Stones, and different ones that pay so much homage to people like Chuck Berry, like James Brown, because those were their, the Isley Brothers. Those were their, the Isleys were not just 70s. The Isleys go all the way back to the 50s or 60s. They have been around a long time. I remember seeing some black and white footage of them, and I was like, yeah, because there was, they also had put on, like all of us, they also put on a little bit of weight over the years too. Because I was like, I ain't never seen them move like that. But the Isleys go all the way back to near like the 50s, 60s. They go back to my mom, and my mom is, in her 70s, in her early 70s. But they go way back. So, some of y'all that there's some of y'all that best know Ernie Isley as Mr. Big. He's not just Mr. Big from the R. Kelly videos. This is a man that has been in the business forever. So, and the Isley Brothers were part of that architecture. So I think we've gotten so used to resting in R&B and in hip hop that we forget that we were some of the early architects of what constitutes being called rock and roll. So I will be playing artists. I don't know about playing some of those artists, but I will be playing artists that don't have a traditional, quote, black sound. So, this, review is over. If you like the content that you are hearing on my YouTube channel, because this will get posted on my YouTube channel. If you like the content that you're hearing, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. If you are listening to me on one of the other formats that my podcast is featured on, please hit the subscribe button there, and you'll be notified every time I post any content. Anyway, this is Adam's Rib, and the next time you hear my voice, you'll be hearing me introducing my next blog. So I love you. Be blessed. Know that Jesus loves you, and I do too. Bye-bye. Hello, you have reached the message line for Adam's Rib Media Ministry. If you would like to give me a shout out, recommend some topics for discussion, or give an opinion about a topic I've already discussed, either on my blogs or here on my podcast, leave a message and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.